Hello and welcome everyone to today's tutorial on learning C++ from the scratch. Our topic today is switch statement. So, what is switch statement? Well, switch statement is something similar to if condition. And when I say something similar, I mean that they're both are responsible for creating multiple routes in our program. If so, the question is, why do we need switch statement if we already have the if condition that make us able to create multiple route in our program? Well, the reason for that is using switch statement have some advantage. Where first, switch statement code is cleaner and easier to read when we have multiple branches or routes, where sometimes there are big programs that a single programmer can't complete it alone, or even if they can complete it alone, it will take them some time. So they need to cooperate with other programmers so that they can complete this program as fast as possible. And when this happens, you need to write an code that is easier for them to read and understand so that other programmer in your team can get the idea of your code as fast and easy as possible. So when we write a code, we always need to make it as clean and easy to read as possible. And switch statement code are most of the time has a cleaner code compared to if condition where somehow become messy and harder to read when we have a lot of roots or branches. Let me give you an example. So here's an example. On our left side, we have the switch statement, and on the right side, we have the if condition. Both of these codes do the same thing, but as you can see on the right side, our if condition somehow look messy, but on the right left side, our switch statement, even if you still don't get the idea of the switch statement, you already can have the look of it look easier to read compared to what we have on our right side. So that's the first thing that we need to know about the difference between switch statement and if condition. So if we have this advantage that switch statement have, then why do we still have if condition and why do we still need to use it? Well, if condition also have advantage that switch statement doesn't have. Even though switch statement code is cleaner, we can only use it when we are checking for a fixed or exact value. So it can only deal with exact or fixed value, but if condition can deal with complex expression using logical operators. And what I mean by this is that in switch statement, we can only check a specific exact number, like is the number stored in a variable equal to 1 or equal to 7 or equal to 8, but it cannot check a range like is the number is stored inside the variable bigger than 7 or bigger than 8 or between 8 and 12. But if condition can make us do that using the bigger sign or less sign and using the AND operator. So that's the main idea about what's the difference between switch statement and if condition. And now let's jump into an example so that we can get the concept in a better way. So this is the example that we are going to create. It will start with waiting for the user to enter a month number. And depending on the number of the month that he's going to enter, we are going to tell him what season it is. For example, if he entered the month 12 or 1 or 2, we will tell him that it's winter. But if he entered 3 or 4 or 5, we will tell him that it's spring. And for month 6 or 7 or 8, it will be summer, and for 9, 10, and 11, it will be autumn. But if he enter a number that is bigger than 12 and less than 1, which doesn't exist, we will tell him that this input is invalid. So let's try it out. If we enter 1, it will tell us that it's winter. But if we enter, for example, 10, it will tell us that it's autumn, as you can see over here. And we are going to build this program using the switch statement. And as you can see, the moment our program starts, it starts with waiting for our user to enter an input. So our program will start first at getting input from our user. So we are going to need a variable. And then we are going to use this variable so that we can decide which route are we going to trigger inside our switch statement. So let's get started. So first of all, we're going to create a variable for a number because we are going to ask the user for the number of a month. So we are going to say int, then month, for example. We're going to call this month. And then we are going to display a message to our user to enter a month number. Enter a month number. To be more clear, let's tell him from 1 to 12 and our cout over here. And now we are going to use the cin instruction to get our user input, and we are going to store the user input inside our month variable. And now we are going to start using our switch statement. And to use the switch statement, we just need to type switch and then open a bracket. Inside this bracket, we are going to enter or to write the variable name that depend on it we will choose the root that we are going to trigger. So I'm going to write month over here and then open a curly bracket over here. And now we are going to create our multiple root inside this curly bracket over here. And each root will be defined by something called case. So let's say case, in case that our user enter the number 1 and end this case and then type colon, what instruction do we want to trigger? Well, we want to say cout, the season is winter. Then if we have another instruction, we can write it next in the next line. But if we finish all this instruction, we want to write it inside this case, we need to end it with something called break or a keyword called break. So this defines that our root end here in case that the user enter the number 1. So this is for the first root. And we want the same cout to be displayed when our user entered 2 instead of 1. So what we're going to do is just copy all this line over here and create our second root. But the second root will be activated or triggered in case our user entered the number 2. Also, we want the same cout when our user entered the number 12, because number 12 also print winter. So here is another root in case our user entered the number 12. So this is like our first 3 root. If our user enter 1 or 2 or 12, our system will print the season is winter. But if the user enter the number 3 or 4 or 5, we will say that the season is spring. So we are going to change this to spring and change the case to number 3 and create another one for 4 and for 5. So here for number 4 and another one for number 5. So case our user entered the number 5. So this is for the spring. Now we want to create the root for the summer, and for the summer we also have 3 root, and it starts for the month from the month 6, 7 and 8. So we are going to change this to 6. I'm going to say here summer and copy this and then paste it below and change this to 7 and 8. Then we have finally the autumn. Autumn start at month 9 to 11. 9, we are going to say here autumn. We are going to copy this but instead of 9 we are going to say here 10 and 11 for the month 11. So here now we created 12 root from cases where our user enter number from 1 to 12. And as you can see, we have here repeated cout because we cannot give our switch a range like bigger than 9 or bigger than and equal to 9 and less than 11 for example. But we need to be exact and give him a fixed or exact value like number 9 or number 10. We cannot give him a range. Now, finally, we need to give a root in case that our user enter a number that are not defined in any cases or root that we wrote before, like not 1 to 12. In this case, we are going to write another root and we will call it default. Default. This default is going to be activated at any moment that our system or our program didn't find any of the numbers that are specified over here. So if it's not between 1 and 12, it will trigger the code inside this one. So let's say cout invalid input, please enter a number between 1 to 12 and end our line over here. And that's it. Now if we try to run our program and test it, if we write 1, it will say it is winter, and 12 also should say winter, but 11 should say autumn, for example, autumn as you can see over here. So it's working fine. But if you try to write something else, like maybe number 13, there's no month bigger than 12 as we all know. Invalid input, please enter a number between 1 to 12. So now we created multiple root using switch statement instead of if condition. Now let's talk about the break here, the break keyword. Well, what is the job of the break keyword over here? Well, the thing is that when our switch triggered this root over here when we entered 12, it will trigger the cout over here. And then we'll keep triggering anything below it until it finds the break keyword. The moment it finds the break keyword, it will exit the switch statement over here. So if we delete the break keyword over here, it will activate this root when we enter 12. What you will see is that it will trigger this one and this one as well. So it will print like the season is winter 2 times. As you can see, let me show you. 12. As you can see, it triggered it twice because it didn't break the switch over here. So we always need to write break after each case. But if you want to trigger what the moment you write 12, you want to also trigger what's in 1 and what's in 2, for example, we can delete the break over here and also break the break over here because all of the 3 cases over here are similar. They print the season is winter. So we can delete this and delete this one over here. And now, if we enter 12, what it will do is that it will activate anything below it. And it will activate the code inside case 1, which is inside case 2, which is cout the season is winter. So it will only display the season is winter once. And in this way, we make our code shorter. So we can repeat the same thing over here. We are going to delete this part over here. And this part over here. And finally, this part over here. Oh no, we are going to leave it because 3 and 4 and 5 is going to print the season is spring. The season is spring. And now we have the summer. For summer, we are going to delete this one and this one over here. So for 6, 7, and 8, we are going to say the season is summer. And for 9 and 10 and 11, we are going to say the season is autumn. So in this way, we make our code more cleaner and easier to read, as you can see over here. For 12 and 1 and 2, it will print the season is winter. And for 3, 4, 5, the season is spring. For 6, 7, 8, the season is summer. And for 9, 10, and 11, the season is autumn. And so in this example, we use the integer variable to switch between our different roots in our program. But actually, instead of using integer variable, we can use character variable as well with the switch statement. So let me paste another example so that you can get the idea. Here's another example. In this example, we use the character instead of an integer variable to switch between different roots inside our switch statement. In this example, we have a menu for food and we ask the user to enter a letter like P for pizza, B for burger, and J for juice. And then we ask them to enter their choice. So if they enter P character, we are going to trigger this code over here, you order the pizza. And if they enter B, we are going to trigger this root over here. If they enter J, we are going to trigger the root over here. And if they enter a character that is not one of those 3, then we are going to say the item is not available. Or maybe you can do like whatever message you want, like only choose P or B or J or whatever. And as you can see or notice over here, when we were dealing with numbers, we were not like surrounding the character with the single quotation mark over here. But when we are dealing with character, we need to surround them with single quotation over here. So we can like do write the case like this. We should surround it with single quotation. But if you're dealing with numbers, we don't need to do that. Like we can directly write the numbers like this, as you did see in the previous example. And that's it for today's tutorial. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.